Welcome to this episode of Gideons War on Crunch. Today I have Maria Tornroos with me. She has a PhD in work and organizational psychology and is currently employed at MetaCore Games as a wellbeing and performance lead. Welcome, Maria, to this podcast today. How are you?
Thank you so much, Kevin, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for,
Of course, it's been a pleasure.
And thank you for pronouncing my name so well.
Great. I'm sure I'm gonna need this a couple more attempts, but I really do like to try and do my best to pronounce it right. And I have been anticipating this talk for a very long time because I think your expertise is very unique and much needed in the industry, and it's a very unique title that you have at MetaCore Games. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that to begin with, because I'm sure there's many questions coming up. What does that even mean, and how is that a profession within the games industry, right?
Yeah, sure. So my title, Wellbeing and Performance Lead, is actually really exciting for me because I think it encapsulates really well what I do or what I strive to do and what I've been striving to do almost all my career. I've been interested in work well-being for 20 years and just not there hasn't been a position like this for me. So without knowing, I've been looking for this position my whole career. And I was really lucky to be able to get into the gaming industry, get into MetaCore, and find this kind of role. And the title really encapsulates how we think about performance. That there is no performance without well-being. So that's what lies behind that title.
Yeah, and vice versa in a way, right? Although
Yes.
the well-being is more important. So you said your interest started 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What sparked interest for this particular field and this particular area?
So it was before I started my psychology studies. I had been interested in psychology in high school, but I was working in a completely different field. I was doing air freight at a logistics company, and I was looking at my colleagues there who were doing the exact same job, exact same task, but they were stressing in completely different ways. And I was like, what is behind this experience? They are doing the same things, but still one is really reactive and really stressed, and the other one is more calm and so on. So I was really interested in understanding the differences. And then also I was really eager to try and improve the work environment, try to support people's well-being there. So how can we increase people's enjoyment at work and that they are able to do their work but also feel good doing it. And then from that I went on to do my studies in psychology at the University of Helsinki, but all along when I was doing my studies, I was like, what am I doing here? Because I am not interested in becoming a clinical psychologist. So I was really interested in what I was studying about human nature and human behavior and human functioning, but I had no clue what I was going to do after graduating. And seeing my fellow study mates just knowing exactly what they want to do with the psychology degree really bummed me out, because I was like, I have no idea, because there is nothing for me. I don't know what to do. And that's just a testament of how work life looked at that point. So there wasn't that much effort put into work well-being, especially not in-house. There were some consultancies, but from very early on, I understood that I don't want to become a consultant. And now I understand why, because I always want to live and breathe the environment that I am improving or developing. So I felt like I can't find meaningfulness in just going in somewhere, doing something and then leaving and not knowing whether anything had an impact or knowing the people really well and so on. So that's where it all began.
Wow.
And do you want to learn more? Should I continue?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. If you have more to share, I just want you to keep talking. I'll ask some questions if you run out
Yeah.
of things to say.
I'm a known oversharer, so I will start to share. But
It works really well in this format.
After I graduated, I still hadn't a clue what I was going to do. And then my master's thesis advisor asked if I wanted to continue to a PhD. And I did my master's thesis on work stress and personality. So that tied back to my interest from before. And then I went on to continue that work in my PhD. And I thought that maybe my career is in research because I have such a hunger for knowledge about this topic. So I defended my thesis on personality and work stress in 2015, and then I went on to become an assistant professor and teaching, supervising thesis and doing more research. But all the time there was something lacking. There was the practical side lacking. Like, what am I doing? What is the impact of what I am doing? How can this really help people? How can I develop work life in general if I'm doing it from the ivory tower of a university? And then I also found myself in an environment that perhaps didn't go so well together with my personality or my values. So the academic environment is a very specific environment and a very specific culture. And that environment wasn't perhaps directly for me. So after my second burnout, I decided that it's time to leave.
How ironic. Someone working with
Yes.
with your particular field of interest being through burnout twice. Well, you know, on the flip side, it really gives you an edge because you know what people might be going through or are headed towards.
Exactly. Yeah. But then I found myself in the position that I didn't know what I was going to do. I was back, you know, in that I know that I want to support well-being. There is no such places available. I'm not able to get into HR jobs because I have no experience of HR. Even though I tried to get into HR assistant jobs, they wouldn't have me because I have a PhD. I'm overqualified. So it was a time of true like career stress and struggles and anxiety.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your process like getting out of your burnout? What was the recovery period? How did you manage that? Because I imagine this is very valuable for someone because you had all the information.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
But then how did you apply it, and how could someone working in games kind of use this to apply to their own lives?
I think it was about me just being blind at the point, just following something I thought was meant for me. Because I was a good researcher. I was a really good researcher. And people like told me after I left academia that, why did you leave? You're such a good researcher. And I'm like, well, that doesn't mean I like it. It doesn't mean that's my passion. It just means that I'm good at doing it. So I was just blindly, or I felt like I was somehow not in control of my own life. I was just doing something that others all the time said to me that I'm good at. So I just followed that maybe this is what I'm supposed to do, not stopping to reflect, what do I want? What are my values? Are they met here? Are they met at all in this area, in this field? Is this for the environment for me? So when I after my first burnout, I started therapy. We are lucky in Finland that we get government subsidized psychotherapy if we go through something like this. So I started therapy, and through that process, I found out what I wanted to do, like what were my values and what was the mismatch in the environment between my values. And I'm not saying the academic environment is inherently bad. It was just not for me at that point.
So what I'm hearing you say is the academic route was not a match with your innate personality, and because of that, you didn't get to have autonomy and the passion
Yes.
to drive into what the work you're doing. So was it more taxing
Exactly.
because of that, or what was it?
Yes. I think it was exactly, you hit the nail on the head, saying that I didn't feel I got to that was my passion. I didn't know what my passion was, but I knew that it had something to do with actually making a difference and helping people. And I didn't feel that I got to do that. And at the same time, I tried to take care of my colleagues around me, and seeing them also being affected by this environment was really taxing for me, because I couldn't do anything about it. So then I realized that, okay, if this is going on like this, I need to leave, because it will only drive me into more burnouts if I don't.
Okay.
And actually, I have to add that it's also ironic because I've written an article on person-environment fit. So like how your personality and the environments, the mean personality in that environment, if they match, how does that affect your job satisfaction? So I was like, yeah, okay, I should utilize this knowledge on myself also.
Maybe you were so good at writing it because you were in it in a way, right? You were in the mismatch, so you could put yourself in the perspective. And I guess it's also interesting how you're saying in the beginning, well, I realized I didn't want to be a consultant because I want to be at the pulse of where I'm trying to make a difference, to be a part of the community and the habitual things that I want to have a change in. And so in a way, right, you're not able to help neither in the work environment where you're living, but also not directly having an effect on a corporation, etc. So now you're moving in this very unique role. That's cool. It's awesome. I love this whole journey. It's it's very insightful for me as well, aligning the passion and your persona and your values around what you want to do. Now, what does a well-being and performance lead do? What do you do at MetaCore Games? What is it that you do in your day-to-day?
My day-to-day, I can first start with like the bigger picture. My main task is to have an overall understanding of how everyone's doing, and to support and build a foundation and a culture and an organization that supports a balance between high performance and high care. So that's like what I'm supposed to do. And then how I do it in the day-to-day is that I'm a personal coach here for people to come and talk to if they have anything on their mind. I can help them develop a skill. I can help them develop their communication. I can help them solve if there's some conflict looming. I can start the discussions together. Then I also coach teams. I can coach a team that has just formed and wants to find out how we work together. I can come in and facilitate discussions if there's something that the team feels like they're not equipped to facilitate this discussion, but it's really important to have it. And then I can do all sorts of different things with teams. I've done so many wonderful team workshops and stuff here. And then I'm also a contact point for example, supervisors. If they have something they're just, interested in human behavior or like team behavior, they can just come and ask me, what do I think about this, and spar about that topic. And then I obviously also collect data because I've written a book on people analytics, so I should know something, but that also puts a huge pressure on me. But I try to collect data and adhere to evidence-based practice by collecting data from different sources, not just surveys, not just employee surveys, but also that people come and tell me, and I walk around and I join team meetings just to observe how they are doing and what's going on there. And then I'm really closely involved in onboarding new people, because I believe that the onboarding process is the key to our growth, to our sustainable growth. that we really welcome people here, and we really take them in, so that they feel welcomed, so that they are integrated into our culture and understand what MetaCore is about. So I meet everyone in the first week, and we have grown quite a lot. So it's a lot of people I meet, but it's the favorite thing of my job is to meet these newbies, one-to-one introduction with everyone, because I believe that that way the threshold is the lowest possible for them to come and talk to me in the future, because they know that I'm available, and I'm always I never judge, and I always listen. So that's one thing I do in onboarding. I also have 4 different workshops for all the newbies during their first 6 months. They go through culture workshop, stress regulation, self-leadership, and teamwork with me. So we discuss these topics and what kind of experiences they have, what kind of do's and don'ts, how this works at MetaCore, what kind of tools they need to thrive here. So that's part of also what I do, a big part right now, because we are growing so much now in the autumn, in the beginning of the autumn. And then a lot of other stuff. I'm an advisor on different people processes. I'm involved in a lot of different people projects, but as an advisor role for that, to make sure that everything adheres to our culture and keeps the people first mindset here. So
that was a lot. Thank you. I mean, there's so many things to unpack here. Where to start?
I'm sorry for the monologue.
It's great. It's great. It's absolutely great. But I think there's some things that I really want to highlight, because it's a very unique thing.
Yeah.
One aspect is that you're inserting yourself in this company in a way to be like a thermostat in terms of measurements. And more of a fly on the wall kind of thing, as I understand, where you're picking things up both through meetings, you're walking through the hallways, picking up on how individuals are behaving, body language, how they're showing up to meetings, starting to communicate, starting to perform in general. You have surveys, of course, which is a regular standard thing, but do you have any other measurements that you're using?
Like quantitative measurements, or what kind of measurements?
Doesn't matter if it's quantitative or not. It's more like what I'm interested in. What's your data point, and it doesn't need to be academic or not, right? It's more like, what are you collecting in order for you to make decisions on what to implement?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I brought up the term evidence-based practice. So I use data from surveys mainly to confirm hypotheses that I have about how people are doing. So usually when we've done these surveys, there haven't been that many surprises, because we already know, because we are creating the culture that everything is open, transparent, there's feedback, there's communication, so that everyone knows that it's okay to talk about these things. It's not taboo to talk about. It's not taboo to raise a flag that, hey, I'm not doing okay, or hey, this deadline is too tight. So I'm the data points I look at is what I see and feel and hear here every day, and what people come and tell me, and then I use the quantitative data to try and see, are my observations correct or not. And then obviously if there's something specific I'm wondering about, then I try to ask specifically that, either through asking on Slack or then pushing out a survey specifically on that topic.
Okay, and then I kind of want to segue into the second part, and that's the which I find very interesting. It's in a way you're the keeper of community spirits in a way, because you're taking the individuals that are coming from the outside and having to be integrated. And so you're in a way, you're allowing the culture to thrive in a positive way by integrating them, and also having your position being somewhat in between, where you're the trust person for the person coming in, but also the individuals from the outside. So it's a very, very, very interesting way of allowing the culture within a company to thrive. And I think there's a really unique possibility or a chance for people's listening to apply something similar in a very low friction, low effort kind of way. Do you have any advice on how to implement this? If maybe people don't have the budget to hire someone like you, but they would still want to implement some of the takeaways that we talk about today. And I think those two aspects, having a fly on the wall, but at the same time keeping the community by integrating in this onboarding process, what would you say would be good ways to do this?
That's a good question. I think that, or one part of what I do every day is try to make myself useless so that they don't need me anymore, so that I don't have to be everywhere. And I think that's like how I do that is obviously through creating. Everything starts from our culture that allows us to do this, that signals that this is how we do it, and this is how we behave, and this is how we take in new people, this is how we treat people. So I would say if there isn't a dedicated person to do this, then you need to first of all think about the employee experience. What is it like? When does it start? So how do you communicate? How do you treat your new hires? And what is their life cycle? Like, how much support do they get? What kind of information do they get? Do they get integrated into the culture? What kind of culture do you even have? Have you thought about your culture? Have you thought about your values? Are your values just words on your wall, or do they come true in reality? So I mean, those kinds of questions already start to make a big difference if you start to think about those.
Talking about values, I mean, you said yourself you were not aligned with your own personal values. Do you think it's relevant for an individual to know their own values in order for them to identify if the company values are the same as theirs, or align enough for them to be able to work at the place?
I think it's really important for us all to at times stop and reflect on our values. Because especially when we start feeling bad, then we realize that, it might be the values. So already recognizing what is important to you, what makes you thrive, what makes you feel passionate, what makes you want to come to work every day. If you recognize those, then you can first of all be grateful if you have the chance to have that kind of workplace, but then also help that company to foster that kind of environment and foster a good culture. So for me, when I interviewed for MetaCore, I actually brought up my values and said that these are my values. Will they come true? Are they aligned with your values? Will there be a mismatch? And they said, no, we don't think so. It sounds like us. And then I was like, okay, fine.
Great. Also very cool for you to know that their values were already in place, right? So they had to think about what are our values within the company. I guess that also is one of the identifiers in a way that they were one of the first ones to create a position like yours, right?
Yeah.
Was that you applying, or were they actively searching for someone like you?
Yeah, they were actively searching for a wellbeing and performance lead. And when I saw that ad, I was happy in my previous job, but I had started to feel like I needed a more dynamic environment. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is the first in-house role in Finland, perhaps more larger than that also, and they were specifically looking for a psychologist. And that was also very new, because usually it's an HR person, and I have nothing against HR people, but usually it's an HR person that does well-being on the side, or has trained to become a coach and also does coaching. But they were specifically looking for a psychologist, where I saw that, okay, because I've never worked in HR, so I don't have that experience, so I can't apply for those kinds of positions. But I am a psychologist and I love work well-being and developing it. But I actually didn't apply when I saw it because I thought that I'm a dusty old academic and the gaming industry will never want me. I've been in academia for 9 years and I'm too, like, they will think I'm too old-fashioned or something like that. And I've never done this, live doing these kinds of things. So I didn't apply, but luckily, we have AI, so LinkedIn's algorithm kept pushing it in front of my eyes for 2 weeks until I applied.
Thank you, LinkedIn.
And yes, and after my first interview, I was already sold. Like this is the environment where I'm gonna thrive because it's dynamic. It's full of passionate and passionate people, and also it's constantly changing. Because we are growing and I have ADHD, so I can't stay still. I can't stay put. I have to develop and I have to move forward and I have to, develop things and develop myself. So it just sounded like so perfect. And then I needed to, in my my last interview, I needed to calm myself down and really introspect that, okay, these are my values. I can't just, just go there without also making sure that this will come true. So then I like I said, I asked about the values and yeah. And when I started, I have to say, when I started, we were 45 people and we're 170 now. So there's been quite a growth and it was quite a different, we were in a different place, but we were the same. I believe we've been able to keep the values, keep the culture, keep our fantastic atmosphere, even though we've grown like this.
That's awesome. Now, I know your specialty is in stress.
Yes.
And should we dive into that a little bit?
We can if you want to.
I would love to. I think it's a predominant topic for passionate people that really want to create and so managing and getting the right things in place in their lives to manage it or to be sensitized towards the stress, so they're not as it's not as predominant, because stress, we need stress, right?
Yeah.
What's your take on it? I just want to give the torch back to you because you have much more to say and you know much more about this topic than I, so I really want you to talk about it.
Yeah, so it was good that you brought up the passion because we have like so much passion and ambition for what we do, but I always remind people that doesn't mean that we're superhuman, that we can do anything or that we can do anything, but within a limit of our body and our mind. And also that it doesn't mean that we should just like keep going, do work overtime, work weekends and all that. Yeah, even though that we are passionate and ambitious, we still need rest. We need recovery. We need to put up boundaries around ourselves. It doesn't mean that we don't want to work hard or that we don't perform. It means that we're smart because creativity requires rest and recovery. And we are in a creative business. And if our people lose their creativity, then that's not good for our business.
Okay, so balancing passion with recovery.
Yeah.
I've heard this terminology and I really love that because I find it to ring true. To identify yourself as a corporate athlete, because athletes need a lot of rest in order for them to perform.
True.
And so if you have the mindset of, well, when I'm going to work and putting my passion into action, that's game time. And after game time, we have to think about recovery and coming back so you can do what you love at your best and not compromise in a way.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So what are the things that you see or want to see people implement in order for them to recover properly?
I want to see that people take more breaks, just like that easy, that they take more breaks, that they step away from their desk from time to time, or the break doesn't have to be that long. It can be a micro break that you just lean back and stare out the window. That's fantastic for your brain. And that they are able to detach when they close their laptop, leave from work, that they are able to detach from work. Because if you are not able to detach, then your recovery will be compromised. So detaching is the first step of recovery. And for that to happen, we need to make people understand that it's okay for you to go home and have your own life. You don't have to live and breathe or sacrifice yourself at the altar of MetaCore. That's not the point of this. The point is for you to be healthy and feel well, so that you can do what's best for MetaCore. And I love the saying that our CEO Mika Tammenkoski has about that this is not a sprint, this is not a marathon, this is a jog. So it emphasizes how we look at performance and how we look at working. That if we allow people to be in their element and feel well, the results will come from that. And not pushing them to do a sprint, not pushing them to do a marathon, but their own pace, at their own pace that they like to do it. And that will yield results.
Are you applying that in any form? Are you giving them autonomy over work time, or
yes?
How are you implementing this?
We have full freedom. We have
Full freedom.
I was a researcher, so I had researcher autonomy, but that was nothing compared to the autonomy I have here. I thought that I had
So
freedom at the university, but here it's crazy, and it takes time to adjust. If you're not used to it, it takes time to adjust, because our basic pillar in our culture is trust. So we trust you, and MetaCore trusts me, and I trust MetaCore. And because I am trusted, I am also able to make decisions about how and when I do my job. And we have autonomous teams, and within teams they can decide that, for example, how much they feel like their team work needs a presence at the office. So there is no corporate, from above, mandated that you have to be in the office 2 days a week. I don't believe in that, because then we are touching upon people's autonomy. I believe that we can do this through teamwork. When the team says that, hey, we are developing games, and game development is a social thing. So that's why it would be best if we would have these days together here, that we can really throw around ideas. But then, other than that, you can work at home if you feel like you can concentrate better there. That's fine. But we have a fantastic office, so people love to come here also.
Great.
And fantastic people.
So I guess autonomy here can also be a double-edged sword, right? Because people are so passionate. You said it yourself with breaks. It's okay to have breaks. And
Yes.
it takes a little bit of time to be adapted in order for you to have those breaks. But
Yes.
it's the same with managing the workloads that you do and how you spread them out, right?
Yes,
There's
exactly.
just some individuals that just can't stop. Do you have a parachute or something that kind of supports them in a way?
Well, we have our culture, and in our culture, we value work-life balance. And I always say to everyone that the culture is not something that someone else has said that this is it, and then it's set in stone. We all create that culture with our example. So when we say that we value work-life balance, that also means that you have to set a good example in that. So many people have said that they're shocked from when they have started here, have previous experiences from other companies, and then they start here, and people actually just go home at 4.
Yeah.
So and that's so powerful, because the moment someone starts to work overtime, and the moment like that happens, you are setting that example, and then your colleague might be like, oh, but okay, I should probably also stay and do this, and then that becomes the norm. So
Wow.
we are trying to do this through the culture, not by having any rules of no like working on weekends. We do say that please don't work on weekends, but we try to also do it through the culture that everyone supports their colleagues and helps them to realize that, hey, you need to take breaks, or we can take breaks together, and how do we organize this work so that it doesn't spill into our home life.
Wow. Okay, I have this arching realization right now that culture is really almost this company superpower that if you implement it correctly, and in a way you're making every employee to a leader, and you're probably reenacting this by having this onboarding process where you're slowly introducing them to the culture in a way. And I guess the extreme opposite of this would be how work culture is in Japan, where they're just overworking, and if the boss stays, then everyone stays and they have to stay.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
If you are a leader, and everyone at MetaCore is a leader, and hopefully in the future whoever's listening in your company as well, but changing the culture from the ground up and taking time to evaluate the values of the company and the individuals might actually bring an increasing well-being for everyone that works at wherever you are working. Wow, that's so cool.
And I have to add, and I know this might sound really, I don't know, provocative, but I think it's poor leadership to have rules from above, because it's easy. It's easy to set a rule from above, from like the top management thinks that, okay, now people are not behaving the way we want to. Now we set a rule to the
big whip.
That's lazy leadership. It's much harder to do it through culture, but that's the way we want to do it, because we want to empower everyone to take responsibility, because in our culture ownership is also really important. So you take ownership for your role, but that also means that you take ownership for like carrying the MetaCore torch and the MetaCore culture and developing it. So we are empowering them to do that also.
This is great. There's so many golden nuggets here, and I'm sure I'm gonna go back and listen to it. Absolutely. And I hope that people are gonna go back and listen to it too. The power of culture to change, and kind of have a influence over individuals' habit by leading by example and starting to implement it slowly, and have the culture be influenced by it, and have the values of well-being and recovery is important for creation, for building passion, and for also delivering things to the world that are enjoyable. We have to be enjoying it as well, otherwise it's not possible.
Exactly. Yes.
Absolutely love it. So looking at the industry, and I want to be respectful of your time because we're reaching quite a little bit into the podcast, but maybe let's touch a little bit on the industry. What do you think would be the major things? And we touched about culture, but what are other things that individuals could be implementing into their company to make a difference for performance and well-being, which are two sides of the same coin?
Yeah, culture is such a broad topic also that it encompasses so much, but I wanna like start from the foundation of how do you think about your people? What is your basic assumption of human nature? If your basic assumption of human nature is that the human is inherently lazy and needs to be monitored, then you're going the wrong way already in the beginning. And then whatever you do on top of that, you try to create a empathic culture. That won't work if that is your basic assumption, because you will always behave according to your assumption, maybe not according to your culture. So I would start to think about that, like how do we view our people? How do we treat them? How do we communicate? And also, what do our people think? What do our people want? Listen to them, because I'm like, that's also like my job to listen and get the data from that. It's not that every time someone gives some feedback, it's immediately we have to do it. We have to think about, is that something that we need to do right now? Is that something relevant right now? And so on. But if we don't listen at all, we lose a lot. And
Okay.
with the listening, I want to add psychological safety. Because without psychological safety, we don't have creativity either. We are afraid of making mistakes. We start to avoid asking questions, and then there will be quiet quitting. And quiet quitting, the person not leaving even though they want to, will cause them to have a declining performance. Perhaps they will start to do counterproductive work behaviors like spreading rumors or even stealing or something like that. So ensuring that you have psychological safety, or even if you don't know where to start, just think and start to measure that does psychological safety exist, and what parts of it should we start to develop.
So you're saying measuring psychological safety, and I'm sure there's tools out there to do that, but what would you say are practical steps to foster psychological safety that are maybe some low-hanging fruit that people might not be thinking about?
First of all, everyone, especially if you're in a leadership position, you should facilitate everyone's voice. You should admit your own fallibility. You shouldn't try to pretend that you never do make mistakes and that you're always perfect, because no one is perfect, and that's okay. And so admitting your own fallibility, ensuring everyone has a voice, asking a lot of questions, and making sure that when people suggest something, even if it comes in a complaint form, it's just them caring. It's just them trying to express themselves. So not judging from the way people bring up things or ask questions, not judging the way they do it, but thinking about what is the content of this that is being said. So those are a few ways that you can foster psychological safety.
So complaints are actually hints, right? Is what I'm hearing you say. They're hints.
Yeah. Yes.
In a way, they're also proactively trying to influence the culture to the improvement of the whole if they're writing complaints. Is that fair to say?
There might be people who don't have the communication skills necessary to turn that complaint into a constructive comment. And that's completely fine. We can help them do that. Or they might be already so cynical. They might have been trying to talk about this for years. So then it comes out as a complaint, and then it's not their fault then either. So just be open. Yeah.
And it might even be that individuals have worked in this industry for a very long time, and so they have some preset ideas of how things work in the industry, and it might not even apply to the company that they're working at right now, but the presets will already come up in habits of communication, right?
Yes, exactly. And what I also say to new people, that we all have baggage, and sometimes it takes longer to get rid of that baggage, but don't try to force, don't be aggressive towards your baggage, because it's also there to remind you where you come from and help you to navigate better, and it's there to warn you about the warning signs you might have experienced previously if you've gone through burnout and so on. But let's together try to make that baggage a little bit lighter and know that you're safe here.
Amazing. Maria, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for helping with this conversation. I just had a realization that this is an attempt at making the games industry better, one conversation at a time. But this conversation really feels as if we're going in the right direction, and there's some cool insights here. And I feel like I would want to talk to you even more, but we might have the chance to do that again, depending on how you feel about it. thank you so much. Maybe you want to say something to the listeners. How can people find you? What are you working on, except for being at MetaCore? But what do you want to share?
Oh my God, you put me on the spot.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. And thank you, everyone who has been listening. I hope that something that I said made you think. And if you have any comments on anything that I said, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me, or then send an email to me at metacoregames.com. So then it will find me. But it's been a pleasure. It's been really, the time just flew.
Great. Same for me. Maybe someone would be interested in your books?
My book is only in Finnish, unfortunately.
Not available yet.
No, but yeah, I hope someday to write another book, and that will perhaps be in English.
Great. And even a translation of the previous one might already be beneficial to the world, but
perhaps. Let's see.
Let's see. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you for you listeners tuning in and having a blast doing this. I will hear you on the next one.